Hi, today we're going to be able to investigate and interpret the past, and to do that I'm going to be looking at some evidence which is found at Peterborough Cathedral. This is a map which shows Anglo-Saxon Britain, and the yellow mark shows us roughly where Peterborough is located. However, at the time it wasn't called Peterborough. In AD 655, a monastery is founded in the current cathedral site. At the time it was called Meadswell, and later it was called Meadhampstead, which means the home or farmstead in the water meadows, and this is located on the north banks of the river Nene. The monastery was founded by Peder, the son of King Penda of Mercia, and completed by Peder's brother Wulfhere. At the time, Mercia was a pagan Saxon kingdom, but as part of the marriage contract with a neighbouring Christian Northumbria, Christian missionaries were allowed to found religious houses here. The original monastery may well have been built with timber, but it seems to have been later replaced with stone. 870 AD, the monastery is said to have been attacked and destroyed by Viking invaders, most likely the great heathen army led by Ivar the Boneless, which invaded East Anglia in this year. Some people dispute this event, but given that similar treatment was meted out to other local abbeys at the time, it seems really quite credible. A relic of the original monastic church is the Hedda Stone, and it's displayed in the cathedral today. The Viking invasion of Mercia reached Meadhampstead, and the abbey was razed. The monks were slaughtered. The remarkable Hedda Stone is a two-sided carving and memorialises the massacre of the abbot and the monks in 870 AD. It's carved a few years after the event, but it's the most prominent surviving artefact from Meadhampstead. So, how do we know what the stone represents? Well, to be honest, we don't know for sure that the Hedda Stone represents the massacred monks and the abbot. However, according to the Peterborough version of the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, written in the 12th century, the events recall the sacking. We often rely on written evidence as well as evidence written hundreds of years later. Together, if we piece this together with the Hedda Stone, with the written evidence, we can actually assume that this is what this actually represents. The 12 figures actually on the Hedda Stone were actually the monks who were massacred by the Vikings. Here's another two pieces of evidence. These are priory stones from Lindisfarne Priory, which show the monks and also the sacking of the abbey. In a time when most people couldn't read, images really were important to recount events. We believe these stones show the event because we also have written accounts of from the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles. Your task is to create a priory stone that shows the attack on Meadhampstead Abbey by the great heathen army led by Ivar the Boneless. Okay, I'm going to actually model how to create a stone like the Hedda Stone and also like the Abbey stones from Lindisfarne. Okay, I'm going to start off by thinking about what the event was the sacking of the Meadhampstead Abbey. So there would have been Vikings there and there would have been monks there. Right, so I'm going to actually start off thinking about what they would have recorded. They perhaps may well have had the Viking. Now, in the evidence that we saw that the Vikings were not too cleanly portrayed. So I'm just going to actually do some shapes, because don't forget these were cut into stone and they would not have had lots of detail in them. So actually don't worry if yours is not detailed. I'm thinking about what the Vikings would have looked like. We know that they didn't have horned helmets. And they would have had wooden shields. The large centerpiece, that's called the boss. The shield would have been wooden made, so And now I'm going to actually draw. They would have worn leggings, but in stone you wouldn't perhaps have seen the details, so I'm not too fussed about that. Okay, right. So simple tunic. Weapons they would have had an axe. They also may well have actually had, in fact they did have, spears. We know that because actually I've actually seen Viking spearheads in the museum in Denmark. Again, this one's wearing a tunic. I'm just drawing roughly. You take your time on yours. Don't forget the importance is the feature, what you're portraying. You're portraying the story of the Vikings attacking. Now, that there's not a pair of eyes and a nose, that's their helmet. We've got evidence of actually helmets having nose pieces, very much like what Norman helmets would have had. In fact, the Normans themselves are actually descended from the Norsemen. In fact, that's where they get the name from, the Norsemen, the Normans. Okay, now this is my two Vikings. I'm going to actually draw some detail on his tunic, make his shield. Then I'm going to actually have a pitiful picture of a monk. And my monk is lying down. He's going to actually have hands together, and he's going to be praying and begging for mercy. But as we know from the Hedda Stone, that mercy was not coming. They actually have sacrificed 12 monks and also the abbot who's in charge, and they stole from the monastery. Okay, so that's my Vikings actually attacking. Right, so you can actually keep it at that. So I'm going to actually light my stone from Lindisfarne, put an arch around there, so that's my stone. Then in the background, I think what I'm going to do is over here, I'm going to have the image of, I'm drawing this on the computer graphics tablet. I'm going to draw the image of the monastery burning. So just going to give the impression of fire coming from this, smoke, bit of shading on the sides. Over here I can actually have the front edge of the monastery, the gable end there, and here just the impression that that's the edge there. Okay, right, this is my version of the Lindisfarne parish stones, Abbey stones. This is obviously perhaps one of these might be Ivor the Boneless, but they're certainly from the great Viking horde which came. Okay, give it a go yourself and see what you can come up with.